Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Bone Podcast, where we discuss all things crypto markets. That includes the majors like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Memecoins, and of course, NFTs. Today, we're going to discuss, speaking of NFTs, the massive Hyperliquid Airdrop, the Hyper NFTs that are absolutely cooking right now. We're going to talk about the crypto market bounce and whether or not VC-backed tokens are killing the meme coin market. GM, thank you all for listening in today. If you're listening in on Spaces, give us a like, give us a bookmark, give us a comment. If you're feeling generous, give us a retweet, push us out in the algorithm. If you're on YouTube, give us your comments. We love to see them all day. What are you buying? What are you selling? What opportunities are you chasing in the market? And what would you like to see us cover? I'm joined this morning by Signal. Sig, crazy weekend, bounced a lot. We've seen a ton of news over the last week too. There's a lot of plays and a lot of different angles we can go. How have you been feeling?
Feeling FOMO is like, I have wins, but they're not enough. I want more wins. But no, it feels good, Ray. It feels good. It feels like last week was definitely a bit of a shakeout. When we had Chris on the show, we were talking about how this like wobbly bit felt a little bit manipulated, but it also felt like a good accumulation point. And even if you aren't accumulating, overall, it feels like we're in the right conditions to have good ICOs, good, pullbacks on stuff like Hyperliquid that's now going up. It feels good, but it doesn't feel frothy. So I'm also really happy because I saw Eric Trump say Q4 is going to be unbelievable for crypto. And we all know what happened last time when Eric Trump said it's going to be a good quarter. So I'm believing him. And I'm just riding this momentum into the end of the year before we have a nice blow off top January, February. You can pretty much time this stuff. It's pretty much like clockwork at this point.
Yeah, I saw his tweet over the weekend. I was touching a lot of grass, touching a lot of sand over the weekend. I actually played some golf, and I went to a festival for like the first time in multiple years with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law on Saturday. We got to brave the weather and listen to a bunch of music through a bunch of rain. So I was like unplugged. I did see the Eric Trump tweet. I was like, okay, here we go again. Things are gonna run. Before we go any further, though, we do have a guest today, and he's going to be joining us on stage, frequent contributor to the Modern Market. Also, we're gonna hear about a little bit of the platform that he works for, GlobalStake. Welcome to the stage. Welcome to the show. For the first time, we have Phunky. How you doing?
Thanks so much, Ray. Yeah, excited to be here. Looking forward to being part of the conversation and just having a great chat with you guys. Very honored to be here. Thanks again.
Yeah, love to have you. And excited to pick your brain. I love pulling new guests on to get new, fresh perspectives on the market, what people have been getting into. So I'm excited to get your take there. Jumping right into it, like, how was your weekend? How do you feel? Like, what's your general thought on like the market right now? Like, how are you feeling vibe-wise?
I mean, you're asking the wrong guy, Ray, because I'm just giga bullish all the time, right? I think it's up only, infinite institutional bid, as Brad would say on Modern Market. So yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to have a very exciting Q4, if I'm being completely candid, despite Eric Trump's warnings, as Sig noted, right? Because it does have a tendency to go the reverse thing. And in fact, I just saw this morning, Jim Cramer tweeted buy crypto, and he showed the national debt clock, and then everybody's like freaking out because of that, because they expect like an immediate reversal in the markets. But I think I just turned 50. I'm a long-term sort of kind of guy in general when it comes to how all these things play out. So I'm in it for the long haul, as most people probably know who know me. Most of our portfolio for me and my wife is Bitcoin. So, we sleep very comfy at night. Don't worry too much about volatility. I could commiserate about all the things that I missed over the weekend, right? You guys are on the Modern Market chat too. And it's like, that thing was just popping off, and legendaries at the spot, making money. Sig's like, hey, wake up, get out of the spot, take profits, so it's kind of crazy to see all that. I'm just sitting there scrolling, laughing, and just happy for all my friends who are killing it. I'm not much of a trader. Totally missed the meat of the move on the XPL plasma thing, but I did get in the game a little bit this weekend. I made a couple moves just because I couldn't ignore Project X and the crazy APYs over there. So I now have a little bit of plasma exposure and just kind of farming that. But yeah, otherwise life is good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, love to hear it. And yeah, definitely some FOMO. Calling back to that, I think I saw people sharing the plasma meme coin trillions.
Oh yeah,
2 to 3 million in there, and this was like maybe Thursday or Friday. and I jumped on a couple of the different dexes that are supported on Plasma. Like went to go swap in maybe like $500 worth of XPL into one of these tokens, and every pair was just no liquidity. So I was like, oh,
Really?
I guess I can't do anything right now. It's not working. I've got to get back to work. I have a bunch of stuff on my plate. And then next thing you know, I look at it on like Saturday and Sunday. I was like, oh my God, I missed like a 10 to like 20x here. Like, and I would have held too because I was busy like all Friday and Saturday. I would have popped up on my phone and be like, oh, wow, free money. But it is what it is. Sometimes you miss the plays. And it's a good reminder to anyone looking at new chains and feeling FOMO for missing out. Hey, check the meme coin market. Check the early meme coin market if you missed out on the big token sale for the chain, because that generally can pop off when you see something like that happen.
It has been a crazy 72 hours. You actually reminded me, Phunky. I completely forgot I bought and sold like that meme coin arc on Saturday. It was like Saturday morning. I was just like had some time to myself, and I'm like looking in the chat, and it's like, oh, there's it's the Dex narrative. I can't even remember who it's from. And then like I went in and then ended up selling it, I think within 45 minutes, and then carried on with my day. And then I was messaging Ray about Plasma, because it's definitely like when a new network comes out, you're tripping over your feet to try and or tripping over your shoelaces to try and find your feet, so you can be like, how do I get this over from Hyperliquid over to Plasma? There's no route, so you're just, anyway, you definitely like need a network out there that can sometimes hold your hand when you're trying to get to a new chain, or at least I do. But yeah, if Trillions also saw it, didn't get it, but I was like, that's what I kind of like about this moment that we're in, is that there's so many opportunities. So even if you miss something, you can also, go to the next thing. Anyone who missed Plasma, it debuted at like 70 cents. And now we're just sort of bouncing around this 1.3 to 1.6 range. I think on the weekend, Plasma went up to like 1.6, 1.65. Now it's pulled back. But I was looking at the token thinking, wow, that's actually doing incredibly well, despite the sell-off that we've had on other tokens. We're seeing Aster now come down to around 1.8, 1.9, which is like very good, considering Hyperliquid is now coming back. So there's lots of opportunity at the moment. I think you just need to like stay locked in, pick and choose what you like, but don't have FOMO if you feel like you missed something, because there's going to be something else coming up very soon.
100%. Yeah.
We're getting the weather report, and then we're getting to the rest of the show. Sound Money says meme coins getting wrecked. We are rotating into utility. We are going to discuss that, and I have some thoughts here as well. Before we do, though, why don't we jump in a little weather report action, Sig, and then we'll get into it.
Yes, lads, let's get into it. On the weather report on Monday, September 29th, looking at that crypto roundup, the majors, they are up over the weekend. We've got Bitcoin back over 112, ETH just under 4,100, Solana at 205, and Hype is back up to $46. Over the past 24 hours, if you're touching grass, well, Hype, all eyes were on Hyperliquid as they distributed 4,600 Hyper NFTs that now have a floor of 1,350 Hype. So that's roughly $60,000. Also, Hyperliquid Season 2 points have reset, and they released permissionless spot quote assets. Next up, Aster flipped Tether in the daily fees, taking the top spot across all protocols with over 28 million in fees over the last day. Aster is up almost 17% on the week to $1.80. And then finally, it was up and down week for crypto ETFs. ETH ETFs saw their largest weekly outflows ever. However, Vanguard looks to finally provide access to crypto ETFs for its customers. That is all for the weather report, folks. It's back to you in the studio.
Excellent weather report as always, Signal. And Phunky, sorry for surprising you with that Spaces invite. I saw the panic on your face as you saw that happen.
Yeah, I just didn't want it to come through on my mic. All good.
Yeah, we're good. Good to go. Yeah, lots to unpack. There are tons of good news. Why don't we start off with these Hyper NFTs? I'm not like 100% sure like on the requirements for this. I know there was some sort of Genesis event on Hyper EVM, and people had the option to select, hey, I want to get only Hyper tokens, or I want Hyper tokens plus this NFT. This NFT was just released and distributed to all the Hyperliquid Genesis participants over the weekend by Hyperliquid. These things, I think, opened up around like 1K Hype. They dropped into the 900s and now are sitting just shy of 1,400 Hype, which is an absurd amount of money. I think you're pushing 60K on these right now. This is a huge win for anyone who was involved here. The question is, there's a lot of volume. Like, are these a buy? People are buying these. Like, there's a ton of volume on these. Like, what's the thought process here? I don't know if Sig, you or Phunky, either one of you have any idea like what the thesis is here, or if you have any thoughts on this NFT collection.
Well, it's cute art, first of all. I've got to say, I do like it. I actually do like it. And I don't know. I mean, maybe if these are on Solana and like a quarter of a sol, I wouldn't be saying that. But they're on Hyperliquid, so they're more elegant, they're smarter, sophisticated. But interesting enough, like I wasn't even aware of this back in. So when did these come out? Like November 24, I think was the Genesis event. And then they're finally being dropped. The reason why I believe there's so much speculation around them is because people believe there's some kind of benefit that's tied to them. Otherwise, it wouldn't be trading for 60K. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say whether this is going to be worth buying now. Hyperliquid this season is being farmed so much more than what the previous season was. So if you have one of these, I feel like it's, I don't know, take the money and walk and go away and just go do something else with it. I'm not a buyer here, but that's because I'm already farming the ecosystem. So I wouldn't double up on my exposure. But also, I don't want to spend 60K on an NFT right now, even if it's on Hyperliquid. And I'm very bullish on Hyperliquid. I'm putting my time into the ecosystem, so I'm super bullish on it. But I don't want to hold an NFT for 60K hoping that I can flip it for an extra 10 to 15K.
Yeah. I think it's just the first Veblen good, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there hasn't been a massive NFT scene on Hyperliquid. And think about it, because this goes back to the original drop, the people who farmed Hyperliquid on testnet early on, you had a lot of people become literally rich overnight, where they were getting millions of dollars if they hung on to their hype and they didn't just dump the token, because of course they had that very smart move where they released a token, it was like $2 or $3. And so the people who were the high conviction, farmers, if you will, that held on to hype, this is probably nothing to them. If they are now sitting on $10 million plus, what's 50, 60K for one if they didn't select the drop and they just took the extra tokens? And again, they may be speculating on the additional utility that's to come. These are super cute though, especially as Kitty King and a cat guy. Like, yeah, I mean, I wish I had the money to buy one, but I still would, I'm going to say I would not be buying this right now.
This one has a 7,770 hype offer on it right now. This is one of the stealth one of ones that basically the name is it has a name as opposed to a trait. So it says anonymous donor by Jeff. So there's a number of these kind of stealth one of ones. This one sold for 4,500 hype, offer for 77.77. People are buying these rare ones up. It's wild. We haven't seen an NFT collection run this hot, especially with this sort of supply. I don't even know, almost ever. 4,500 supply immediately to a 60K floor. That is crazy. That is craziness. As this makes me wonder, it feels like top signaling, almost for hype, a little bit. The people are jamming this amount of money, and 1.4 million hype of 24-hour volume is just crazy. But you love to see it. You love to see it.
I think it's more of a sign of how much the ecosystem is being farmed this time round. Because if you think about it, how many people will have opted into getting one of these? I'm sure we could get hold of the numbers if we wanted to, but I think more people back in November would have taken the tokens rather than have opted in for the NFT. So for now to see this level of trading coming in, it just, for me, is just sort of a sign of okay, is Hyperliquid being overfarmed? I mean, at 60K, is it being overfarmed if people think that they will be able to flip this for significantly more? In my head, I'm thinking at least a 2x.
Yeah,
hard to say. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's definitely a sign that everyone is this is probably a top 3. Anyone who's farming, it's a top 3 farm out there. So it points to the fact that if people's expectation that this second airdrop is going to be as good as the first, I'm going to say this points to that's not going to be the case. I don't think it will be. Contentious because I'm putting the time and the money into it, but I just think that people there's a lot of people doing it this round than there were when hype. So there's a lot of people doing it this round than there were last year.
Yeah, and then speaking of it being overfarmed, it looks like they reset their points leaderboard for S2 season 2 on Hyperliquid. So maybe these things came together at the same time, and now they're getting ready for a season 3. Maybe there is an airdrop coming on the horizon here. I'm not like an expert of like the Hyperliquid ecosystem, like at a granular level in terms of like these moves. Like I didn't even know these NFTs existed before this weekend. And like if you're somebody who was like plugged in from the beginning, like you obviously knew these were coming as some sort of airdrop. But no more points right now. So interesting to see what's going to have here. Are we going to see an airdrop? What's going on? Hyperliquid price has liked it. Like we've finally kind of hit a little bit of a bottom after it was in free fall all the way down to $40. We're at 46 now. A nice over 10% recovery from the bottom. I know I was talking about on the show last week. I was like, I really want a long here at $40, but I just have so much exposure already that I just can't. And now I'm like kind of kicking myself, but I'm also, hey, price went up.
No, I wonder too, like what Sig was saying in terms of just how much it's being farmed. I think there are a lot of people, myself included, that got to this late. I'm completely whiffed on Hyperliquid because I was not a trader. So I always thought, why am I even going to bother doing anything on here? It's a perp dex. That's not my thing. Of course, have massive regret in not doing it. But I think a lot of people are now farming sort of the EVM side. That's certainly what I'm doing. But I think Sig's right in the sense that if there is a second airdrop, I don't think it's going to be nearly as lucrative, right? The token is worth way more, so they're probably going to give out less of it, right? That was, I think, part of the strategic release of that 33% of the first supply, and to do it at such a low value, knowing it was going to help people on taxes. And this is completely speculation, but I do wonder if the people who were in the know that selected, I want a combination of tokens and the NFT, like if that reduced their allocation by say 1,000 tokens, and did that set some sort of floor for what these are worth, regardless of what the USD value is? They're just thinking, okay, like I gave up 1,000 or 1,500 or whatever the number was of tokens for my allocation in order to get this HyperFi NFT. Is that maybe why that we see this sort of really crazy strong floor? And again, I think it also goes back to these people who are just nouveau riche that, okay, I can throw a bunch of money around because I got millions of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that we like talk about it being over farmed, but like this graph, I mean, it's pretty much just, I mean, it is up and to the right. This is the daily volume we're showing on YouTube right now. I mean, it's pretty much up and to the right, but it's not, there is no huge parabola here on the weekly volume for Hyperliquid. So if you're somebody who was just like continuously trading on Hyperliquid over the last almost year, like I think you could end up with something that would be decent if like volume is the main factor of the next airdrop, if it happens. I know there's so many like ifs here, but I mean, looking at their track record, they're looking to like reward users. That's kind of been like the MO. I wouldn't be surprised if it is like a very bullish airdrop in terms of like what people get for trading on Hype. I see Sound Money in the comment section. Looks like a big Aster bull. The NFTs are the answer from Hype to Aster, who is eating Hype's lunch. So I kind of want to talk about this too while we're over at DeFi Llama. Let's take a look at fees, because we saw Aster basically overtake and like dominate Tether in fees. This isn't other DEXs. This is Tether. $6 million more in fees than Tether over the last 24 hours. They've done almost $100 million in fees over the last 30 days. That is a pretty crazy number. I know there's a lot of tinfoil hats out there saying like, oh, this is just Binance and CZ running volume through the chain, or running volume through the app. They're gonna maintain supply control this way by airdropping themselves Aster tokens for volume. But like, have you been paying attention to the Aster and Hyperliquid war? And we've been asking all the guests over the past week, like, did you get involved with the Aster trade? So I'm curious your thoughts on this whole Aster versus Hyperliquid war, essentially, Phunky.
I mean, I'll be the first to admit, no, I haven't touched it. Another great example of how curated that modern market chat is, and how people came together to quickly like call out Aster. I mean, there were people getting in, at 15 cents and just wrote it up. And by the time that their perps were available, I didn't want to touch it because it was already past like $1.50. And then it continued to rip to, and again, a lot of people are talking about how much of this is wash trading, how much of this is whales just putting on both long and shorts to just sort of generate volume and create these sort of fake metrics. I don't know. That's at the end. I'd want to express my epistemic humility here that I do not know what the actual case is. But I think people who are, even if you're small, I mean, if this second wave, this airdrop, because they have that very short window, which I think only runs for about another week, people are probably still going to cook and make some money on it. And just having heard about the janky experience of the actual quasi DEX, that's really more of a sex. It's not really on chain. That, Brett talked about that a couple last week. And so I just, I'm sure it'll do well, because at the end of the day, much like Plasma being backed by Tether, this thing being backed by Binance, even if not, CZ is showing up on Spaces and talking about it, right? He's effectively shilling it. So, they have more money than they know what to do with. If they want to pump the chart, they're going to pump the chart. So I think that this is something that people are still going to do well with. Not financial advice and all. I mean, personally, I haven't messed with it. I haven't touched it. I don't really do anything on Binance Smart Chain at all. So, if am I going to miss out? Yes. But to Sig's point earlier, there's going to be so many other opportunities, I think, coming in Q4. And if you're quick to jump on them, you can still do X's pretty quickly. So,
yeah, looking at these charts, like I was looking for this pullback on the 4 hour when Aster first launched. I kind of like misplayed the run up, and I rebought here to the highs. It looks like it's kind of playing out the same way on a longer time horizon. So I'm going to zoom out to the daily here. And when you zoom out to the daily, you're kind of seeing that same chart formation here, where you have the run up and then the pullback, a little less of a pullback. So I'm gonna be looking here, especially seeing these fee numbers. Like, no matter who it is, like no matter what the scenario is, it's bullish Aster price action, I think. So my thought process is like, I mean, A, it's real volume. Okay, this thing's hilariously underpriced. B, it's CZ and Binance buying it to maintain supply control. That feels bullish price action. And then I guess the bearish scenario is C. It's whales not involved with Binance, who are basically airdrop farming to dump the token. That's, I guess, the bearish outcome. But I put 2 as the most likely, and maybe like CZ, like that being the most likely outcome in my head. That's how I'm framing it. And then kind of whales and organic volume as like far below that. So I'm going to be looking maybe to open a long if we do start like to kind of break out of these ranges and cross maybe $2 again on Aster. I would consider a long here, just in terms of the price action. Obviously not financial advice, just giving you my thoughts on like what I'm seeing and what I may be playing here. Signal, do you have any thoughts on Aster?
Yeah, I do. So I've got a bag of this, and I'm not into perps. I do them occasionally, but it's really not my cup of tea. But saying that, when I saw the argument about the whole like which product is better, I agree Hyperliquid is the better product in terms of UI interface. I still don't particularly like the Hyperliquid interface. I don't think it's intuitive at all for somebody who is new to the space, but versus Aster, it's definitely better. But that argument where you see people go, technically it's not on chain, it's on chain, and the UI is not good, like, you see it play out in real life. Android is a better phone. Technically, it is a better phone, but everybody buys the iPhone. So what I'm trying to say there is like, it doesn't matter features wise. You never want to be in a features war, because it's a war that the best product with the best features doesn't necessarily win. Well, the narrative here is it's Binance versus Hyperliquid. Now, that is a narrative that's very easy to get behind, and one that if Binance is controlling this, CZ just went to jail. I don't think that man has any reason that he wants to go back there. He is back in the seat, which means everything he's doing behind the curtain is legal. Whether they're wash trading or whatever, it's going to be legal. That man does not want to go back to jail. So I'm like, okay, they're going to stay in this business. They're going to do whatever they do behind the curtain. And this is somehow, I think, going to just sort of hover around this 1.8, 1.7, going over 2. So I'm just going to hold this while the perp DEX narrative is strong, and hold Aster and hold Hyperliquid, and whoever wins, I'm positioned. But I'm never going to sell a bag because a UI is worse than another product, unless it's like, small fish products out there. But this is Binance versus Hyperliquid, and I think that narrative is strong enough for Aster to hold the price that it currently is.
Where do you think it goes? Just out of curiosity, do you have a prediction?
I never I got in early. I got in very early, like at like 0.39 or so. So I have this like buffer of playing around, but I don't like to give price predictions. I'm just watching it and seeing what the price action is. I think the most important thing is what's going to happen after the airdrop. I think it ends 5th of October. It's only about 2 weeks. So let's see what happens after that. But I think Aster is a contender in the perp DEX narrative, and I want to be part of it for that reason.
What's crazy too with Ray pulling up, for those who are watching the stream, the MACD curling up, right? So like if that thing starts to turn green and rips, like you could see to the point you're talking about, like just the price action is gonna really explode upward. So
yeah, I mean the fibs are saying 338 would be the next upward move, looking off the previous peak. So a little under a 2x. I'd look to long from like 2 to 3 would be like my entry and exit with a stop loss at $1.75. So like that's what I would target for my own personal trade if we do see this downtrend kind of reverse here and we break out of over $2. I think $2 we're going to be looking to potentially long again. Like I said, I think it looks like he's just painting this chart, and like if CZ's going to continue to climb and it seems like the volume numbers are there, like I don't mind jumping on it and taking.
It's legal crime, right? It's legal crime. Okay, like there's a difference.
Yeah, when I say crime, I just mean buy the token, pump the price, do all the things you can do as somebody who's backing the protocol. Oh man, yeah. So I mean that's thoughts on Aster. I want to talk about Plasma as well. We talked about the meme coins. Phunky said, have you guys been exploring Plasma at all? Have you done any of the DeFi on that side, any of the yield, LPing, etc.?
I just started doing the LPing today. Like I said, when it came to Plasma, I missed the move. I was commiserating with Bread the other day just because, you know, for those who are in the US, we actually had a pretty good opportunity for the second Plasma drop, because when they opened that second window, it was like 9 o'clock at night. I remember I was about to go to bed and I didn't have a whole lot of stables at the time. And I thought like, is it even worth me putting in this, knowing that it was like 5% of whatever you're going to put in? Lo and behold, they bonus dropped like 9,000 tokens to even people who put in like $1. So this was really a great cook for people who did get involved. Of course, I think there was the whole, if you're in the US, you get your tokens locked up for a year. I don't know if that included the bonus ones or just the main token. But and the reason why I was upset at myself for missing the move, despite being busy at work, I could have just thrown on a long, like I had said all along, Tether is backing this thing, right? We jokingly call it the Tether chain. I feel like you knew that with Tether's backing, much like we were just talking about with Aster and Binance and the connection there, they're not going to let this thing just die off and just fall off a cliff when people get the airdrop. So I feel like they have a great market maker involved that's really doing a good job with the chart and trying to keep it healthy, despite the fact that so many of the emissions are going to be used to feed into these incentives that they're offering to lure more capital to the chain so that they continue to climb the TVL. And I couldn't resist. I felt like I needed some kind of exposure. I feel like this is going to do well, at least through Q4, probably do well into the next year as well, depending on, whether or not you fall prey to is the cycle done? Because now we're at the traditional halving thing. I was just at the RWA summit in New York 2 weeks ago. Every TradFi bro there was like, the cycle is dead. Like that thing is not going to matter anymore. It's all about liquidity. It's all about the big institutions coming with their money and really trying to buy up everybody's tokens. So, I think that we still have a lot of time left in this particular market. And so I had to jump in. I'm just doing it on Project X. Again, going back to earlier in the conversation, I feel Hyper EVM is still not all that well farmed when you look at just total wallets that are active over there. And Project X was offering something insane. I think this morning when I claimed, because I was also running the K-Hype and UBTC pool, as well as the K-Hype and the USOL pool. And the one on, it was like 700% APY. Like, so just even deploying a little bit of money into this thing last night, I mean, I probably made more in fees in that one pool than I've made in the fees in the other two pools across like a week or maybe at least 5 days. So, and I figured like, okay, it's bullish because in the sense that either I'll end up with XBL tokens for less money, or I'll just end up with more stables again. So, if it sells out and I have more stables, great. And I've made some fees along the way. If it sells down into it, then I have, just the XPL tokens, which I can redeploy or use elsewhere. So I felt it was kind of like a win-win proposition, because normally I don't LP against a stable token, but I just couldn't ignore the AP. I mean, look at it. It's insane. 718% APY. So, I mean, and that's not going to last forever, right? I mean, Legendary jumped in when it was like 7,000%, right? And he absolutely was smashing it. And then there were other people in the chat that were getting way more in fees than that. So, I think this is a great way to kind of expose yourself to some of the Project X, the Hyper EVM airdrop, but then also you're getting that exposure to both the XPL token itself, especially if you're like me and you didn't participate in the pre-sale, you want to earn some fees. If you like doing DeFi, I think this is a great opportunity.
You muted, Ray.
Thank you. Sorry, my dogs were going nuts a couple minutes ago, and I forgot about it completely. Looking at this is another thing to look at. So we talked about meme coins after a chain launches. When you do have a big token launch and it does get added to unit via and like directly into Hyper EVM. So this is like a unit XPL token pair on Project X, and I think that there's probably going to be similar plays like next time something gets added as a unit token. So like that's like a checklist. Like, hey, like we need to craft this checklist. A, check the chain for meme coins. B, look at Project X as soon as you see a unit token drop for a new token, and then try to get into that or create that LP as soon as possible with either USD.0 or Hype. And there's going to be a ton of early volume as people try to swap in that pool to get into that pool. So like it kind of builds on itself. Like right now, I wouldn't like highly suggest getting into this because like everyone's looking at this and they're saying 718% APR. You're going to see liquidity go up and maybe volume go down over time. Like this could last a couple days. But when you do see these big spikes, you see a ton of activity getting into it. Everything peaks because now everyone's into it. They're no longer trading into it. And then the APR will drop.
Yeah, APRs dry up. Oh my gosh. I was in the pump hype one, and that was printing nicely. And then I went and looked at my pool, and it was like at 46%, and I was like, "Damn, that just dried up so quickly." so these pools, like sometimes they're really hot for a moment, and then for another moment they're not. But just going back to the conversation around like Plasma and what they're doing, I think how I'm looking at Q4 right now is really like, what are the strongest narratives? And right now you got the DEX narrative on the stablecoin narrative, which, you're seeing people say that the strongest use case for crypto right now is stablecoins, which I thoroughly agree with. And I was early to circle when it IPO'd on the stock market. I was just able to buy that through my general broker. That did extremely well. Arthur Hayes comes out with the article, changes my mind, and then I end up selling my bag. And ever since then, I've just been thinking, well, how can I get exposure to stablecoins? And I don't think I'll be the only one who's thinking that. And I think Plasma will be the most obvious place for people to go if they want to have the stablecoin narrative. And that's why I'm holding my bag. And I think it's for now, it's going to be a long-term bag until I see that narrative change. As well as that, I missed Plasma, did not participate, but looking back, this team has done one of the most elegant airdrops of the last 2 years, I have to say. The way they rewarded people who were early, who were OGs, who contributed, have an amazing product, solving a real world case. It was just like tick, 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 tick. And I'm like, right, these guys, take my money, just do what you need to do, take part in their rewards. And I'm studying the ecosystem because I don't know, I think I learned my lesson personally from Blast, which I now just call the sunken place. And I saw a rumor on Twitter that it might actually be shutting down, which I wouldn't be surprised. But now you see like Plasma is the way that team did this to the point of even just airdropping the tokens in your wallet, not even having to claim, just boop, $10,000 just appears and more. It's been beautiful. So I want to have exposure to stable coins. I think, Ray, maybe we can talk a bit about, is there space to be having a meme coin culture over on a stable coin platform? We can talk about that. But I think they're one of the best teams right now. And have some of the best products coming out with the Plasma One card as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on Plasma. I've been like sharing this on the screen for anyone watching, like their daily rewards in Plasma token across all of these different opportunities. So like lending on Aave of the USDT0 token, lots of liquidity pool provisions between stablecoin pairs where you're earning not only the yield from the actual LP, but earning plasma rewards over top. Rewards.plasma.to to get to this page. But one that I'm actually in and have been talking about on the show for almost a month now is the USD.AI, which got moved over to Plasma. This has been getting a ton of attention. I opened up the USD.AI USDT pair on Plasma, so I'm providing liquidity there. But the yield tokens that I purchased a month ago have went up in value, which is like super rare as these things. As like this protocol has like gotten a ton of traction on the timeline, a lot more noise made. So if you followed along with these yield token plays from a month ago, you're not only like sitting on all the points and the yield, but you're also up on principal, which is like super rare on these things. I think a lot of the dApps and a lot of partners that are on Plasma kind of repriced seeing Plasma's like big success and basically valuation jump upon launch. So congrats if you got in this.
Sorry, where was it meant to debut? So you said at the beginning they moved over to Plasma. Where was it meant to be originally?
Well, they were always like going to be, well, not always, but like since we've been talking about them, they were moving to like they were going to be on Plasma, but they pre-launched on Arbitrum. So they initially minted the first 250 million of TVL USD.AI tokens on Arbitrum. And then they increased the cap to 500 million. They minted another $250 million worth of tokens on the Plasma. That happened last week. We talked about that. I think we had a good amount of Bodalgos able to mint into the USD Plasma mint, which is kind of like at a discount because USD.AI is trading at a premium to normal stable coins right now, just because it supply and demand. People want to farm points here, and you need to be holding either the USD.AI or stake it to like kind of get the basis of like any of these other tokens. Like you can obviously buy like the derivatives, like the yield tokens, and things like that, but they're all providing demand for the initial stable coin. So it's a little depegged on the positive side for USD.AI. So getting into these cap raises is kind of like EV plus on stablecoin out of the gates, not counting in any benefits you get there. So this has been an absolute cook. I continue to watch like other apps on stablecoin chains, like lending apps, borrowing apps, things with like interesting use cases. Like what caught my eye here is just like, hey, this is a stablecoin pegged to something that's not the standard T-bill. It's pegged to GPU compute. That may or may not work out, but in a world where rate cuts are coming and maybe the yield becomes less attractive on stablecoins, it could be an interesting hedge. So I'd be looking for like new and interesting things that use stablecoins in a like novel way. It's kind of my framework looking at the stablecoin opportunity, because I think we do see this continue to grow, and we do see more plays like Plasma coming out. Like we've talked about a number of the other big players like releasing chains like Stripe, Circle. So like we're gonna see some other opportunities, and we need to like look at what happened with Plasma, come up with a playbook, and figure out how to execute post launch if we can't necessarily get pre-launch exposure.
So Ray, just so on USD, so I'm sorry, there's nothing more annoying when the alpha is sitting in front of you. Not even that, you're talking to the alpha. Ray told us about this a month ago, and I completely just left curved it. So it's so annoying. This was one of the things on the weekend that I was looking at, and I was like, oh, Ray told us to get into this. So Ray, if I wanted to get involved now, like at a much higher price than what I could have, like what I could have got a month ago, how can people buy this now?
So the like least risky way on capital that I would get involved, and it's what I did yesterday, was deposit into the balancer pool on the airdrop side. So it's staked USD.AI and USDTO on Plasma. So it's like, and it is a couple hops, skips, and jumps to do this. So it's not like the easiest thing. I'll just do a very quick like run through of how you would do this. So if you want to watch this back on YouTube, you can kind of see what's going on. First step is going to be buy spot XPL on Hyperliquid. Was the easiest way I was able to do this. So you go into Hyperliquid, you search for tokens, you go to spot, and then you buy spot XPL. There may be easier ways to do this now, but this is just the way that I natively was able to do it. Bought spot here. Once you buy it, you'll be able to withdraw You'll withdraw to Plasma Chain. You'll have to withdraw your XPL token to Plasma Chain. And then after you do that, you'll go to balancer.fi. You'll have XPL in your EVM wallet. You'll swap your XPL into some combination of I would actually just buy USDT0. This will be like the least slippage path. So XPL to USDZ0, and then USDT0 into SUSD.AI. And you're going to want to keep like probably 60% USDT, 40% USD.AI because of the price depeg. A lot of information there. You can watch it back if you need to kind of go through that in slow motion. But I just wanted to just do that quick how-to. That's how I did it after a lot of like tinkering around. If you remember last week, Sig, I think you were on the show. It was me, you, and Chris. I was like scrambling around to figure out like how to properly get XPL on chain, and then like doing it like while hosting and producing the show is just like quite a debacle we had. But eventually figured it out, and you can watch that. That's how you get XPL on chain, at least if you have Hyperliquid.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because it's not easy to do these things. I was watching you, Ray, do that, and I was like, chill, man, God, like it can't be that hard. And then literally Friday night, I was trying to do it, and I was like, God, I think I remember Ray going through this pain. So yeah, no, thanks for explaining that to people. And I'm going to look back into the USD.AI thing. I still think it's one of the most interesting plays. An interesting play within one of the strongest narratives of stablecoins over on Plasma.
And then. Got Bounce is saying easiest way to use a bridge. None of the bridges were live last week, but it looks like we're pretty good now. I just went over to Project X, which we talked about before. They have cross-chain swaps. If this was live last week, this would have made my life 100 times easier. So they have cross-chain swaps. They have Plasma enabled now, so you can go any token. Like you can go ETH to XPL now, and that'll be eliminate the Hyperliquid step. They have no platform fees. So I would check rates, but that should be like the easiest way if you're on an EVM chain to get to XPL. So you can cut out that Hyperliquid step, just do this and then go into Balancer. So that would be the shortcut there. Thanks, Scott Bounce, for the comment. Bridges are live now as opposed to last week when everything was kind of slow to start. Chris Coffee. Oh, I remember in the comments. Yeah, we had some fun on that show. Yeah, so like that's my thought process. High level on USD.AI. That's like the least risky pool, in my opinion. You risk like protocol risk for USD.AI, depeg from USD.AI. Hey, it doesn't work out. The GPU model doesn't work. It depegs negatively. You would lose money there. But basically, I'm comfortable LPing two stable coins at a decent like you get 5x more points than you would if you just held the USD.AI stable coin. The riskiest way is buying the yield tokens on Pendle. You get 25x or 12x depending on which one you buy. I have more money on the airdrop side because I'm not an accredited investor. I don't want to risk potentially having to participate in an ICO that I wouldn't be allowed into. So I'm just comfortable staying on the airdrop side. There's a whole lot to this, and if you have any questions, like I can give you a lowdown in the Bodogos Discord. I think we've went niche enough into this on the show, but if you do have additional questions, ping me in the Discord. I'm very happy to talk more about this because I've been deep in the weeds here. All right. That being said, we've seen a lot happen. Phunky, I want to ask you about this. We've talked about this in the show like almost every day, but I just have a lot of fun with this. I actually ended up buying back in and like kind of rotating positions a little bit here. This is the NFT Strategies. Looking at these guys over the weekend. We saw a little bit of a drop and then a run up as we saw some contract issues, essentially allowing people to swap in NFTs for the strategy NFTs, like potentially bricking them. Also swapping squiggles for other day one art blocks collections, which kind of like have a lower floor, which lowers like kind of the treasury value. I would love your take on these, Phunky, overall, like before we talk more about what's going on. Like, what do you think about these in general? Are you involved? Have you bought any of these? Like, what's your thought process?
No, so okay. First and foremost, I still hope you're holding your Dick Strategy bag, which is the best ticker ever. And I
sold it. I sold it.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I saw it just ran up 42% or whatever in the last 24 hours. So, but in general, and here's another great example of me just kicking myself for not just aping in on something, right? Like, I mean, I have plenty of stables now at this point. So I feel like I should always just be able to will and throw a little bit of money at some of these things, because when it was first brought to our attention in Modern Market Chat, another one where I just saw Punk Strategy, I kind of faded it because I was like, I don't have time to mess with it, look at it. But I should have aped in this one in particular because punks are the grail at this point, right? Like if you're going to own an NFT, that is the one thing. And I've shared this sort of story with a few friends that probably, I don't know, maybe whatever it was, 5 months ago, in the worst part of the dip, when like April was happening and Bitcoin went below like 80 grand and ETH was at like $1,400. And, you know, there's always been that famous chart that Whale shows where it's like the lines crossing of a Bitcoin versus a CryptoPunk. And I talked to my wife, who is a really hardcore Bitcoiner, and I was like, look, we should really consider selling one of our Bitcoins for a CryptoPunk. I said, because, you know, the logic is, you know, there's 21 million coins, yes, but there's only 10,000 punks, and punks are clearly becoming sort of the grail, where we still would have been able to, and we even picked out the punk together. Like we looked at it, we found one we liked. It had the sporty headband, much like my Pudgy. It has the nerd glasses, because Aaron thinks I'm a nerd. I wear glasses, had a little earring, had a beard, right? Just looked like some dude you'd meet out on the basketball court that would just school you, right? Just like ball you up. And we talked about it long and hard, and she's like, no, let's not do it. And then of course they just ripped, right? Like, I mean, absolutely ripped, where it's almost like 2 Bitcoin now for CryptoPunk. And I was like, I told John, we should have done it. We should have just done it. You know, it would have been, you know, something that was worth doing. So I say that all because even though I missed that trade, you would think that this would be such a great proxy to owning a punk. This thing is actually like acquiring punks and flipping them. So, you know, as part of its treasury strategy, I just should have aped, right? Because like it was already clearly working. Even if I got in a little bit lower on that bad dip where it went to like 10 million, and some people smartly, I think, loaded up, you know, and then it just ripped to 90 something million over the weekend. I mean, look at that chart, right? I mean, I just feel foolish for fading it, because I felt like you're getting some kind of minimal exposure to punks. If you can't afford a punk, this would have been a great way to kind of get some kind of punk exposure, knowing that this thing is continuing to put together a treasury with all the fees that it's generating and so on and so forth. I think the other thing too, in the interest of full disclosure, another reason I faded it, because if you can remember, and I assume this is still to be the case, that this was very heavy tax. It was like 10% in and 10% out for the strategy. So I was like, oh, am I really going to want to eat up 10% of whatever capital I deploy into this thing? But again, just a boneheaded move that I mid-curved it so hard, and I should have just went in.
Yeah. Also, like, I mean, I wouldn't kick yourself too much, because like, when has fractionalized NFTs ever worked over the long haul? Like, that's like, maybe that's the mid curve take. You're like, fractionalized NFT, I'm skipping it. And like, I think that, like, I mean, I didn't have max conviction on this. I love Adam. I'm part of TokenWorks. I'm like, I saw this. I knew this was coming. I saw it launch. And like, I didn't like ape in. I sold 1.2 million tokens worth of this before it got to these crazy highs. So like, I fumbled maybe 6 figures on this thing, and I was like involved in this early. But I think like what my framing now is like, hey, like we've seen multiple FUD events now. I think this is the 3rd FUD event we've had. Like FUD event 1 was like taxes and pool. FUD event 2 was NFT strategies launching and having like quote unquote contract exploits, because people were able to arbitrage expensive NFTs early. And then now we have FUD event number 3, which is like this exploit in the contract with like token swapping. But from what I'm understanding now, it's not like a game breaker, as like it would cost the user money to like have this be a harmful, like cost an attacker money to have it be like a harmful event on the strategies, essentially.
And maybe what I might do is, the coach called out that the Pinkster ETH LP has been holding up over 1,000% on Uniswap for over a week now. So that might be worth an interesting play, just to do a small amount of ETH, get a little bit of Punkster exposure, earn some fees without having to like really, you know, because I mean, if market goes crazy and this thing really catches a bid, I mean, 90 million is still somewhat low, all things considered, right? I mean, you could still 10x if this thing goes to $1 billion. So like, you just never know, and how crazy things get in Q4.
And what's interesting as well, I saw somebody ask on Twitter or somewhere, like, will there be a strategy for the cats the name's gone, the hypers, right?
Sure.
So it's like immediately people are starting to think, okay, it's too expensive. I want exposure. How can I have how can I have it exposure to an NFT collection? And for me, that's a very good sign. I'm not in any of the strategies, but as an idea, it just shows that it has momentum. And if NFTs as a sector go and have more momentum as we go into Q4, which I think they will, because I do think we're going into a strong end for the rest of the year, I could see some of these strategies continue to do extremely well.
Yeah, speaking of hyper-strategy, Adam commented, hyper-strategy has a nice ring to it. There's a little bit of complications doing that, though, as Uniswap v4, which these rely on, isn't deployed on Hyper EVM. So it would take some creative custom contract work or having Uniswap v4 somewhat deployed on Hyper EVM. We are seeing a number of copycats, though. I'm not going to trust the copycats. A couple hyper-strategy copycats if you want to try to chase degen gains. Maybe take a look at some of these, but I'll just stick around and wait for Adam to do it, to be honest. Is my thought process. You were talking about the fees before for Punkster. Like, I have 3 pools here up on this watch list. One of them being the actual like main pool with the most liquidity, and then the other 2 being the other pools that have been created. So like, there are other options for that tax, but like they basically all end up like evening out over time because like arbitrage, like you can pay the tax on this one or you have to pay a slightly higher price on the other one. So that's kind of like been like less of an issue over time. My thesis with this now, I was saying on Friday I'm not touching it, but now after I saw the FUD, I'm like, maybe this is just like a buy the FUD token. Like anytime it has like a massive FUD event, just throw a little bit in DCA into FUD and see how it works out. But yeah, I now hold Punkster as the only strategy I'm holding at this point. I sold my Dixter, basically rotated it into Punkster, and we'll see how this goes when if they can recover. Yeah. Switching gears, though, I think we've pretty much covered all of that. I want to talk like meme coins at large really quickly. I know we're coming up on an hour. I don't know how much longer you can stay on Phunky, or if like you have a hard.
I'm good.
Okay, cool. So I want to give you some time to talk about what you've been up to in this space as well. But I want to do one more topic before that. Meme coins right now and like overall volume in the trenches. So we've seen like a steady decline of both active wallets, volume, new token graduations, new wallets, active wallets, etc. And I think it's kind of like we're seeing the reverse of what happened last meme coin season play out. If you remember, a lot of people were like saying like, hey, like these VCs are coming in and they're giving us like terrible like rates. They're taking all the upside, and meme coins are like the fight against the VC tokens. And now we're seeing like, hey, meme coins are dying out. People are getting absolutely sucked dry with all the fees in the meme coin system. They're having like bundlers just like destroy them. They're having the pros like print these high P&Ls, and the average user just becomes bled dry. And we're seeing like the charts are pretty much down from peak. So my thought process is like, hey, are we back? Like, have we rotated to VC tokens now? Are we back into like, hey, we saw, I think Tyler had a good tweet, like, hey, we had 3 like top 50 coins launched in September alone in World Liberty Financial, Aster, and XPL now. Like, and these have been kind of like PVE. Like you could buy them multiple days after and 2-3x your capital, or even more, like we saw with Aster. So like, are we seeing like a systemic shift from meme coins back towards that like kind of VC side of the pendulum? And like the question is, how long do we stay there before we see meme coins pop out again? Phunky, are you an active meme coin trader? Have you been a meme coin trader at all? Or like, what's your general thesis on meme coins?
Yeah, in the past, of course, I've dabbled with meme coins, right? Like, who hasn't? It's like a rite of passage, I think, at this point, to be in the space in some sense. But I'm not a trencher. I'm not somebody who is like watching things and trying to get in on things early. I think probably the closest proxy to me being an active meme coin person would be like, I still dabble on the Virtuals platform and had some really good runners there in terms of getting in, before the thing launched. And then I just literally let it ride, and I just take profits as things climb. A good example is the Aristotle, which I went in like with all my points, and it's like AI Aristotle, and it's like a fact-based check bot thing, and that has been an absolute monster for me, where like I've peeled profits off this thing twice, and it's just like the gift that keeps on giving. But not really a meme coin guy in general. And to your point about just the, you know, where we are in the market and sort of the cycle, I think what we're seeing, whether it's, you know, Plasma or Aster, you know, or World Liberty Fi, even in the dumps, right? Like I think the smart money is moving very quickly into these opportunities, knowing that if you see that the market's pumping it and it's running contrary to everything else while it's dumping, Plasma being a perfect example of this just the other day. You know, I think that people are rotating there for some quick gains, knowing that the velocity of capital is increasing, as B-Check would say. So like, I just think that that's probably what we're going to see. And that consolidation doesn't surprise me too, because like it's so, your attention is so diffuse trying to focus on all these meme coins and jump from one thing to the next. I think it's really hard to pick a winner, you know, unless it's something that has such cultural cachet, like Pepe being a great example during the bear, where, you know, people were like, how do you not buy this thing? It is probably the Web3 meme, you know, and so it was just something if you got in early, you just absolutely made life-changing money. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how this, whether or not it comes back, because to your point, you look at that pump fund chart, you look at how many people just get extracted, they lose money to fees, the tokens go to zero, you know. But as a broad class, yeah, you could see it there. It's certainly coming back. Like I have a bonk moon bag from back in the day, because I knew it was going to get the listing on Coinbase and Binance. I was told that like a couple days early. So, you know, I just aped and bought some bonk, and then I sold it because the bag went like 10x, and I just sold half and I just sat on the rest, because I thought if we ever have like some kind of crazy meme coin full-blown season where everything goes nuts. But I just don't see that happening anymore, because the market, all that horizontal diffusion, right? I mean, we went from in the last run having roughly 20,000 crypto coins to whatever the number happens to be today. You know, the last time I looked, it's like 10 million, 13 million. I don't even know how many tokens there are now, but it's just like an insane number. And it's hard to have, you know, like a whole class just rise up all at the same time. Like there's clearly, I think now more winners and losers. Like I think Pengu is a great example that could come ripping back, especially as abstract launches, like the token, and there's a TGE around that. Pengus are probably going to fly. So I think you'll see it very, you know, specific in like within the subsector itself, but I don't know if you'll have like everything just going up.
Good comment from Wolfie. Phunky is Cabal confirmed with that bonk knowledge. We gotta keep Phunky close in. We're looking here at the coin market cap top meme coins. There's only 7 meme coins right now that are over a $1 billion market cap. And if anyone told you this in November, that's where we'd be sitting 1 year from now, I think that you would have called them crazy. Sig, I know you have some exposure to meme coins. Are you still holding them, basically holding through kind of this lull in meme coin season? Or are you?
I'm out. I'm out of a lot of individual meme coins, but so I hold pump, and I really don't like pump. I really don't like to press the buy button. I was just like, ugh, bleh, vomit. But I always find that when you feel like that about something is exactly when you should buy it. The meme coin narrative is interesting because it's been around now for like, I want to say like 2 years, and it's had a really strong run, and it's not something that's going to go away. And even though pump is pulling back, and it's had a very strong pullback, giving up a lot of its gains that it had over the past sort of 10 days, I don't like, for me, this is not dead. Yes, there's a rotation of narrative back into VC tokens, but the narrative's going to swing again, and then it's going to swing again, and it's going to swing again. You know, Plasma comes up, you got all the DeFi products on there, and within like minutes, there are meme coins on there. So maybe the volume will go down, and things will need to change. Like the whole vertical needs to consolidate a bit and kind of figure out like, what if we're going to get people to put money back in, what needs to change? And I think the sector needs to go through that, but it's well positioned, like who are the leaders within the narrative. And that's why I'm holding pump for now. So even though it's pulling back, I think if you want to have exposure to meme coins without having to actually buy the individual meme coins, I think pump is one of the best ways to have it. Yeah, you saw the guys who put the pump the pump fund sign on the Hollywood sign, which was pretty funny. But I think, for example, the streaming content needs to get better. If they and there are good people on there. I'm not saying it's all like grifter content, but it's the grifter content that's kind of like bubbling up to the surface and getting the attention, and then making people turn around and go, the content's not good on their streaming platform, when there are actually good content creators on there, but they like need to get more attention. So I feel like meme coins need to marinate a bit, just fix everything that's kind of wrong with the narrative right now, and I think money will go back in eventually. But Q4 just feels very institutional. That is where the liquidity is flowing. So to ignore that flow of liquidity to protocols is kind of not probably the right move you want to do right now. So my attention is on very much on like VC narratives, institutional tokens. If there's an interesting meme coin, I might dabble, but that is not where I'm putting most of my time and capital right now. But I'm going to keep my exposure to the sector via pump.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. It feels icky buying the pump token to me too. I'm going to look at this 40-cent mark that we have drawn here, previous resistance. And if you can get down to this 40-cent mark, I'd be interested in longing pump again. I think it's a mistake to fade them, the war chest they have, and the ability to rally Solana around meme coins and produce runners that will produce volume. I don't think that I think that's just a given that that's going to happen again. I think it's a given that this thing goes to all-time highs again. It's a matter of like where you want to enter and like your risk tolerance. And for me, I think that's 40 cents. Or sorry, was that 4 billion? 4 billion would be the FTV there. So 0.004 is where I had this line in the sand drawn, where I would think to re-enter the pump token. I'm not holding very much in terms of meme coins right now, but I'd be looking here, especially like we're seeing a massive run up right now on majors. Like if we have a pullback on majors, I'd be looking at that pump token to fall back. But since we started the show, Bitcoin has went on like an absolute tear. 113.4 now on Bitcoin. Just over 112 when we started the show. So seeing a bit of a run there. Yeah, so that basically ties a bow on meme coins and pump. We're running a little bit over now. I want to give Phunky the stage here to talk about what he's been doing. I want to thank you for jumping on with us, Phunky. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your insight. I'm sure the audience does as well. But tell us a little bit more about what you do over at is it Stake? Sorry, I'm forgetting the name right now. GlobalStake. How to find you on X, and any parting words?
Yeah, so first and foremost, let me just say thank you so much, Ray, for allowing me to be here with you and Signal today. It's been a great show. In honor of being on the Daily Bone, I actually swapped out my PFP today, took down my Pengu, put up my Bodogo, which I thought was, it's got the gold grill. English was asking for me to wear the actual gold chain today, which I don't have on, but I thought like this is something, and this is really well timed because when I posted this at 6 a.m., 3 hours before we started, I effectively said like, hey, hopefully does this bring the BBE, which for those who know me, I'm a Bitcoiner, right? So BBE is big Bitcoin energy. I have like this ridiculous gold chain that I wear, my HODL hat, which you can see behind me up there on the shelf. And so I thought like, okay, this is close enough to the gold chain for my Bodogo. I'll wear this today for the show. So thanks for having me on here. Just for the person who said I was in the cabal, I am not in the cabal. I'm a no one. I don't know anything. My friend who's very deep in the Solana ecosystem, she heard those whispers about the bonk listing. And that's the only reason I just like aped in. So I'm no one. So for those who are listening for the first time, who've never met me, Phunky, I've been in this space since 2017. First as a casual investor, just caught up in the hype wave of we're all going to be rich. I downloaded Coinbase. I aped into some Bitcoin, some ETH, probably in the spring of 2017. COVID boredom came. I was still a teacher. I was a high school teacher for 20 years, taught a lot of different subjects. I'm a big old nerd. And effectively, I just remember that halving thing was going to happen again. So I started buying options on Bitcoin miners, started loading up on Bitcoin miners and Roth IRA. And then I really kind of turned my attention toward, okay, let me actually do the market, like get back into crypto, did the most degen thing possible and took 50K equity out of the house, and because we had almost completely paid off our mortgage. And I said to my wife, like, hey, this stuff is really going to pop off again. Let's not go crazy. Let's not take like too much, but let's get some cash out of the house. We plowed it into mostly Bitcoin and other crypto, bought Solana at like $2, bought like, I think Matic at a penny, bought, Cardano at like probably 6 or 7 cents or something like that, because they all really went off in the 2021 run. And during that time, I made a lot of relationships. I was super into Polkadot, still very involved in Polkadot, because if you guys remember from the last run, Polkadot had so much hype. Gavin Wood, of course, was the CTO of Ethereum. He was building Polkadot as sort of the next great solution for sharding and scaling and solving the blockchain trilemma. So I was doing a lot in that ecosystem. And then the company I work for, GlobalStake, so just to give you an overview, we are an enterprise-grade, institutional-focused bare metal infrastructure provider. So if you look at my pinned post on my profile, there's a thread about what makes GlobalStake different. And I'm actually walking through our cage. So most blockchain infra providers use cloud or hyperscalers like AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, what have you, or they're renting servers from companies like OHV, whatnot. Our team, bunch of older guys, they all come from telecoms background. We have vertically integrated the whole stack. Our guy that builds our networks, he effectively has been building data center networks for 25 years or so. Like, he literally built Match.com back in the day. Fun fact, that's where I met my wife, when it was really weird to meet people on the internet for when you're dating. And so that's just me walking by. We have 16 cabinets in this full cage, and we're actually growing so big that we might need to move to an even bigger cage. And we have multiple locations around the globe. We are decentralization maxis. And because we only run fully owned bare metal, we do this in tier 4, tier 5, SOC 2, or ISO 27001 certified data centers. We ourselves have a SOC 2 type 2 certification. So we're integrated with all the big custodians. Like if you're looking to run a validator with your ETH, reach out to me. We certainly can do that. We have a Solana node, so you could like stake your Solana with us. And because we run fully owned bare metal, we're able to optimize, and you can earn greater yields with us. So, you just saw what happened with the Kiln hack somewhat recently, where they were compromised through their API. So we're starting to see some like a flight from more cloud-based providers. And I think at the end of the day, because this is what happened, like if you remember, Fidelity, which is a massive TradFi company, they looked at buying Figment, which is arguably the biggest company in the industry when it comes to staking service providers. And the reason that Fidelity backed away was like, wait a minute, you guys are just running everything in the cloud. You don't own your infrastructure. So we don't want anything to do with this. That's, by the way, what you're showing right now on screen, Ray. We jokingly call that that's data center porn, because the cabling is so sexy, according to people who know these things. Because you see like these other places where the cables are just a mishmash everywhere, and people are like, TK, our resident wizard, he is a very proud man when it comes to like making sure all of his stuff looks primo when you're looking at the back of the rack. And if you've never been in a data center, what's really, really crazy is that in the front of these server cabinets, you have what are called perf tiles, and air conditioning is blowing up in front. Like, it's like the Marilyn Monroe thing where she's got to hold her skirt down. And it's basically like all this cold air is coming up from the floor, and the fans on the front of these servers are sucking that cold air to keep all this cool. And when you go to the backside of the rack, it is just like hot air from the Sahara just coming straight at you, and just really like, it's super, super hot. If you stood there, you get sweaty, I'm sure. So it's kind of crazy to have this juxtaposition of, on the front side of the server, you can see at the bottom, those perforated tiles, all this AC is coming up from the ductwork. And then on the back, just, all of the hot air flying at you. So I'm the head of protocol partnerships, which means I'm the one that reaches out to blockchain teams, talks to them about deploying, their particular blockchain on our infrastructure. And, the trend is really kind of catching on with running bare metal. And, even just recently, Coinbase very famously runs many cloud servers. In mid-June, I think it was June 18th, they had a big announcement where they said, we're moving all of our Solana off the cloud onto bare metal, because it just is so much more efficient to run, these really high performance chains on bare metal. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. It was mostly, I was the second or third person hired at the company back when we had like 5. The team's a little over 20 now. We're still kind of a startup, still lean and mean, but having a lot of fun. I basically, went from, I shared the story with Brett on the Phunky Fridays episode, where, I was a poor teacher before for 20 years and basically had never traveled beyond the Americas. And even then, like Central America to like Canada, not even to like South America. And then I join this company, and the next thing I know, I'm going to conferences all over the world. And, so I've been to everywhere except for Asia so far. I'm sure I'll get there soon enough. But yeah, it's been sort of the ride of a lifetime and an incredible dream to work full time in Web3. Of course, I miss many trades because a lot of days I just have a lot of meetings, or I'm chatting with people on Telegram or on Discord or what have you. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I also have the flexibility to show up on cool shows like this on the Daily Bone and talk to you and Signal, Ray. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of profile GlobalStake and what we're doing and how we are literally built different.
Yeah, a lot to unpack. Really appreciate you coming on and giving us an overview as well of GlobalStake. If you're a builder out there, if you're somebody who's involved with these blockchain teams, or you need server provision, definitely check out GlobalStake. If you're an individual, check them out for maybe higher yield on your staking if you want to run with their validators, stake with their validators. Love to hear it. Thanks again, Phunky. I've been appreciating your takes on the modern market when you pop on. Very, very much so a sharp in this space. Love to hear that mortgaging the house to buy crypto has paid off, and we've had somebody who's done it on the show now. That was a fun little tidbit as well. Really appreciate it. Thanks again. We're going to cut the show, though. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Phunky, for joining. Thank you, Sig, for being on with us. We're going to continue to rock tomorrow. More special guests lined up throughout the week, just like Phunky. We're going to get all of the perspectives from the players who are actually participating in the market. We do this podcast Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. You can catch us on all major podcasting platforms to listen back, listen on Spotify, listen on Apple. You can watch us on YouTube. Best place to listen and watch our content is on YouTube, in my opinion. You see what we're talking about live, see our charts, see our graphs. Watch us back over there if you want to get the how-to on how to get to USD.AI. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Have a wonderful Monday.